Hey everybody, and welcome back to another installment in our Introduction to Lightning Web Components. Before I get going, please take a second and click that like and subscribe button down there. It definitely helps me out a lot, and it'll let you know when there's more content. Really trying my best to do at least one video a week, shooting for two when I have time. We just got a new puppy though, so right now one feels like making a lot of videos. Today we are going to talk about iterators, and this is just, if you're a developer, this is one of the most fundamental tasks you are going to do is iterate over data. And we're going to show how we do that in a Lightning Web Component using just some of the features that are built into the framework without really doing, we're not really going to do any JavaScript or anything at all in the next couple videos. We're going to play around with HTML, CSS, because I think one of the most important parts of front-end development is JavaScript gets all the love, but you really got to know CSS. You got to know layouts. You got to know how to make stuff look good, right? So what I did, I'll show you this on my local development server, my sports index, right? So this is just something I built to play around with as an example. And, so you've got some data that's being iterated over in this list that we made, but we're also doing some other cool stuff, right? So I threw in some custom emojis to make the user experience look a little bit different. We did some CSS, right? So when you hover over that link, it gets a little bigger and it turns red. We added another little custom HTML symbol there to add in that phone symbol down there. And when you hover over the phone number, it bolds, right? Then we made it scrollable, right? So it doesn't fill it. You don't have, say if we had 100 cards here, it's not filling up your entire screen. And the links here, right? So the links that we have visited, right? They are purple. The links that we have not visited are blue. I'll hover over it. I said it turns red. And this is all really without any JavaScript. So I think it's kind of cool, and I think it's something that will be useful to you as a developer. So today we are going to really just build the list. We're going to build the iteration. And I think in the second video, we'll focus more on the layout and all those kinds of pieces. So, and you may see me flipping back and forth from time to time to the code I already wrote for my finished version to look at the start version when I forget something. But so right now, I'm going to hop right in to Illuminated Cloud and start doing this. The only thing, so I've got my Boston Iterator component set up. My Boston Iterator start, right? That's just, with the only thing in it is this JavaScript array of objects. All right, so this is just something you go ahead and you make whatever array of objects you want. Your teams, your pets, your food. It's going to work, right? So this is it for our JavaScript, right? If you remember, we've got our square brackets there. That in JavaScript that tells us it is, an array. Curly braces. So it's an array of JavaScript objects, and each one has properties: an ID, a name, a city, an arena. Number of championships won is right. It's Boston. We win a lot. And then a link. All right. So what we're going to do, we want to take this and we want to be able to display over. And when we're done, get something kind of like that. So let's close out of what is currently my finished product. And let's go to Sports Index Start. All right. And now look, there is nothing there. So what do we do with this empty screen? All right. Let's open up let's go to our HTML file. And so the first thing I think we're going to do here is, usually when I'm doing any sort of iteration like this, and I'm going to say right now, there are a couple types of iteration that are built into the HTML file. And we are just going to do one today, the for each iteration, because I think that's the most common one that you're going to use. Maybe we'll do another video on the other. I'm sure there's a lot of others on the internet. So UL, if you're not familiar with, if you're still learning your HTML, that is an unordered list. Then we are going to, so inside our UL, we're going to do another template tag. All right, close that. And so we're going to say in our template, for each teams. And we are binding it. We're saying for each value in teams. Now, if you remember our JavaScript file, right? Teams, right? So it's going to say, hey, so do this for each object that is in the teams array. And then we are going to say for item, and this goes in, inside quotation marks, and I'm going to say team, right? And this is just something you're going to name yourself. You could call it, dogs or ice cream or whatever it is you are going to iterate over. All right. And so now inside of here, so right, so we are just making a really basic list. Not L1, LI for a list item. What am I doing? I can't even write HTML today. LI, there we go. How is that? Okay, so we are just, so now we've got our basic framework set up. So what we put inside this list item is going to display in our, so if I just said, you know, hello world. And so because we're iterating over data, I forgot to mention, is we have to, in our LI tag, list item, we have to go key team.id. Remember in our JavaScript, we had a unique ID for each team. And then, so we have got LI key team ID. And we are going to do a P paragraph tag. And we're going to say team.name. And you know why? We're not seeing anything because I have the wrong file open on my local development server. We are in Boston Iterator, not Sports Index. Boston Iterator start. There we go. Look at that. Now we have got this nice little list of all of our team names, right? So we want team.name. What else was in our JavaScript file? Then I think so. We got city, arena, championships, and link. Then I think we are going to do the next one. We're going to do it in its own p tag. So we want these to start on their own line. I'm going to say team.city and whoa, team.arena. All right, so now we've got our Patriot, we've got our city and what we're going to do, let's add some text in there. Arena. All right, so we're going to add a little text. So now these text values that we're adding in, right, they are just going to appear next to the values from our JavaScript that we bound to it. And then let's just do one more. Total championships. Team.championships. All right, so let's see what happens on our server. Very nice. So what I'm going to tell you though, so right away, like this is, you can't, like we've got all our data, but it's kind of a mess, right? Like everything is way too close together. So I am going to say I think we're going to add we're going to add some margins around. So we're going to go class. Let's add a small margin. Perfect. So already that's looking a lot better, right? That added some space between each item in our list. All right. Now let's, so what we want to do then, and we're going to, now we've iterated over the JavaScript. If we wanted to add this into its own separate file, we're going to nest it into a parent element, right? So I'm going to go back to our iterator, sports index start. And in this one, I'm going to do a lightning card. And I'm going to do H1 slot title. And we're going to say inside there, we're going to add a lightning icon. Icon name. I can never remember my icon names. I think it's standard.email. And below this, so for now we are going to show c.bostoniterator start. So we are just nested our child component inside of this parent component is what we did. So because that we had C, and then that gave us the name of our child component to nest inside the parent component. So the parent is sports index start, and the child it's containing is Boston iterator start. All right, so let's go back to, let's open up in our local web development server, see what that looks like. Okay, great. So now you can see that we've got these things inside a card. And that's not going to do anything because it is. There we go. So we've got our email icon. And let's add a H1. So after our icon, let's add a. So we're going to put this inside a span tag. I'm going to say Boston Sports Index. And we're going to add a little bit of margin to this so it's not pressed up right against the icon. SLDS-M is going to be all of your margin settings. And I'm just going to go all the way around. We'll just say M around extra small. Boston Sports Index. And you know what I think we want to do, though? So let's make our, I'm going to show you how to make the, mumbling on myself here. We're going to add a class to this. And we're not on click. We're not adding an event handler. And we are going to say, we're going to do SLDS text heading large. All right. And now I'm going to hit enter here to space this out a little bit. So if you're not familiar, so our span is an inline tag. So it lets us just add some styles to this thing right here in the line that it's on. And so we've got, unexpected token, class SLDS, text heading large. Where did we go? Oh, because we've got two classes inside our span. No better than that. SLDS, text heading large. That is one of the reasons, though, I really like the local web development server so much, is that really fast feedback versus pushing it up to like production, something like that. Alrighty, this is looking better and better and better. And so I think the last thing we're going to do today, we have successfully iterated over everything. No, you know what we have not? We didn't add in our, if we go back to our Boston iterator start, we did not add in our link, right? Or our phone number. Okay, so let's do that. And we're going to do another, we're just going to, let's see, we're going to do this inside a div because I'm going to set it up like a footer. I'm going to say class, SLDS, SLDS card footer. And we're going to do A for an anchor tag and href. So we're going to set the link equal to team.link. I'm going to say get the latest news. So and we're going to put a border underneath it. So it's doing that with the footer. It's putting a border over the top, but it makes it look like it belongs. So this is the link actually to the Patriots, right? So if we click that, right, it takes us to the Patriots, which is exactly what we want. But we don't want it to look like it's taking us to the Celtics link. So just to make that a little bit more clear, I think we are going to add a box right now around SLDS box border. SLDS box border. Then we are going to, so we've got our get the latest news. We've got our link. Perfect. Looking a little better and better all the time. The thing I don't like now, though, that we added that border in, is that our text, right, it's up too crowded. It's pushed right onto that border. So we've got our margin, and I think we are going to add some padding to our content. So again, we're going to do class SLDS -p around, I think we're going to do an extra small padding for all of our paragraph elements. So DS P around. So your padding is your P for your standard Lightning design system -P is going to be all of your padding. And we've got our class for our footer. We've got our link. And the last thing we want to do, so the last thing we're going to do for this video, what I didn't like when we clicked that, right, it opened up in this window, and that's not what we want. I mean, just about no user wants that. We want it to open up in a new window. So I am going to add the property of target inside quotes underscore blank. All right, and that will now open up. So when we click these links, refresh that, it's going to open up. There we go. So you can see now it opened up in its own separate browser. So that is it for now. Everybody, I hope that was, so what we did, if you remember, we took two components. We took our index, sports index, and our iterator component, and we made our, I'm going to open the file back up. So inside our index.start HTML, we created a lightning card, and all we did in there was we gave it a title and some information, and then we made a child component of our iterator component. And if we go back to our iterator, right, the big thing is, so in our Java, the only thing in the JavaScript is this array of objects. HTML, all right, so you can see we've got the unordered list, then a template using the for each, for item team, then an li, list item, key equals team.id, and you can, I mean, it's whatever, right? Like I said, ice cream, dog, family member, something that's unique. Then we added in some CSS styles using the standard Lightning design system, which helps us just build a little bit faster. So we added in some margins. We added a box. Then we put our text items inside their own P or paragraph tags, and that'll help us start a new line. We bound those to values inside our JavaScript objects. And then we created a separate footer down here with a link to the link in the JavaScript object. We gave it a target value to say, hey, when somebody clicks on this, open up in a new window. And then we set the text value for the target. And that is everything that we did today. In the next video, we're gonna jazz up the layout a little bit. We're gonna polish it up, add in some icons, make this scrollable. So right now, like, it's too big, right? We don't want, if let's say we had the entire NFL, right? You don't want 27 icons all on a user's page. This is going to be scrollable, something like so. That is what we are going to do in part 2. I hope this was a useful video. Trying to keep this one a little bit shorter. If there's anything, let me know in the comments. If there's anything I can do a better job explaining to you. Thanks again. If you haven't, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video, everybody. Take care.